Hey, everybody. Fascinating discussion today, diving into the world of all things quantum computing with a true innovator and expert in the field from Photonics. Stephanie, how are you?
Oh, I'm great. I'm really glad you're interested in this topic. Lots to dive into.
Lots to dive into, a fascinating topic that most of us really don't understand, despite all the excitement around quantum computing. Before that, maybe introduce yourself and your mission at Photonic Inc.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been motivated to unleashing quantum into the world for a very, very long time. So I fell in love with the idea of quantum computing when I was 16 and haven't looked back since. Fell in love.
Wow.
Founded a company to go and build the large scale quantum computers we know are needed to deliver something truly transformative. And we can dive into all of that in due course. But founded it a few years ago while I was still a professor. And then we really hit the go button about 3 years ago. And now we're about 140 people and we're building distributed, or what I'll call phase three, quantum technologies, networked quantum technologies, which deliver true scale, which is the fun part. So that's where I'm there. So I'm the founder there. I'm the chief quantum officer, and it's a lot of fun.
Chief Quantum Officer. Wow, what a title. We're truly in Star Trek territory now. But let's start with some definitions, not just of quantum computing, but, relative to other high performance computing. We have amazing supercomputers and high performance computing of all kinds today. But why quantum? Why does it matter in terms of what's next?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. So ultimately, information is physical, right? So all the supercomputers in your pocket, all of that technology is based upon physical stuff obeying physical laws, essentially. So like switches is kind of the basic building block there, transistors. And all of those physical laws to date for classical computing uses classical physics, or rather like the light switch, right? Zeros or ones. You've heard this kind of work. Quantum computing is just inherently different. It just has more capacity. And so instead of Moore's law, where you can double the number of transistors and that doubles the computing capability or capacity of the system. For quantum systems, the information within a quantum system doubles every single quantum bit you add. So like a 50 qubit quantum bit, 50 qubits, that has a certain amount of power. It actually is about the same as a supercomputer. And then you add 1 qubit and it doubles the capacity, it doubles the space. So it grows exponentially. And also the way that you compute with it is different. It's inherently different. And so you can just use different algorithms that can't be done any other way. So in some sense, it is the more complete kind of computation that could be done according to all physical laws that we know. And so it's really fun to work on unleashing that capability because there are challenges, engineering challenges, to bring that to fruition. But once you do, it is the kind of upper bound of what you can do from a computational perspective. And it's very exciting in that sense. Um, Happy to dive in more if that's of interest.
Yeah, no, it is. And speaking of interest, every few months the press wakes up and there's some frenzy of excitement, things like quantum supremacy, and there's a flurry of news, and then we don't hear about it for a few months. What's your assessment of where we are, the reality versus some of the press and hype in the media? And yeah, what's your insight there, being on the front lines, as it were?
Yes. So it's been very, very fast. And what I'll share is there's a bit of a trajectory that we're going through. And it's interesting because when you have these systems that have more information carrying capability than we've ever dealt with, right? It's actually really
Mm,
hard to find like all the algorithms and write that out before they exist, but people have done that. All of those applications, right, with known algorithms, they're in the really, really large scale regime for quantum, right? And so we're kind of living through a number of phases on the way to that bigger journey. But those things are incredibly powerful, right? Like you can actually simulate the full complexity of chemicals and materials, and you can do a lot of code breaking, and there's just a lot of capabilities out there, but we have to get there first. And so the past decade, I would say, has been what I'll call phase one quantum. And this is where it wasn't known in advance if there was going to be commercial applications. And so you can see, yeah, there's been this gap between hype and traction in the production sense using these early systems. And these early systems are essentially experimental small scale systems, right? You can't trust them to do the algorithm that you're telling them to because they're not sophisticated enough to do error correction. And it sounds really detailed, but it's actually a really big deal. For quantum, that is the name of the game. Can you get error correction and can you get scale? So that's phase one. What's really exciting, you may have heard this in the news over the past couple months, is that people are now starting to play in this phase two regime, where they've gotten the degree of capability into small scale quantum systems to the point where you can start to rely upon them to do the algorithms you're telling them to do. It's very exciting. There's a number of people that thought we'd never get there. So that's very, very exciting. There's been breakthroughs in error correction codes and things are moving really quickly. But that's what I'll call phase two. And I would share that phase two, it's not necessarily clear if there's commercial value there either. Because like small scale systems are actually, you can simulate them with classical computers, supercomputers to some level, right? So it's really, okay, can we combine that at scale? Can we do that at scale? And the premise that we're working at Photonic and what we're really motivated by is the fact that that scale, we have to stand upon the shoulders of giants. We have to look to the past and the classical computing to understand how scale really happens, and really scale happens through networks. So if you take a look at the environmental controls needed to work at phase two, they have to be basically perfect. And you can't scale them easily and having ever bigger boxes. What you really want to do is have modular, right? Think about the supercomputers today, high performance computers. It's a whole bunch of individual processors that you link and network together. So our approach, and increasingly more and more in the field, are thinking about that as the central goal to phase three quantum computing, is really just double clicking on not just resilience, but resilience and scale, the ability to for us, network these things together is going to deliver that. And so that's the very, very exciting point. So we're in that journey right now.
Yeah, what a journey it is. And there is, as you kind of hinted at, really transformational potential for quantum in so many different industries. You mentioned, material design or drug discovery. What do you envision as the, ultimate potential there in different industries, and what might the impact be?
Oh, it's always hard to say, but what I like to remember is what people thought the applications of transistors were. Right. So they had vacuum tube computers, and when they built transistors and they harnessed semiconductor physics, essentially, they were like, oh, this is exciting because we can make a hearing aid. Right. They weren't thinking Google. They weren't thinking any of that. Right. They were thinking, size, weight, and power. Okay, hearing aids. Right. So there's a lot of things that come about once you unleash a branch of physics into a commercial setting. You always get further downstream applications that weren't shown in advance. And so I was just going to preface that as that, like, as soon as we get, thousands of people working on how to use these things in different applications, then we'll get a lot more interesting things that we haven't thought of yet. That's just true from a history perspective. But yes, from what we know of today, there's a lot of the material world that we don't know how to simulate at all. We don't know how to work with. We can make approximations, but understanding even how one molecule changes into another, we have no idea. We have no idea how catalysts really work. We can't simulate that. That one, I think, would be really exciting, because if we're going to rethink about the energy industry, it's all chemical processes. Code breaking is the other one that a lot of people mention, but pharma and drug design and all that kind of stuff that comes in there. So there's a laundry list of algorithms called quantumalgorithmzoo.org, and it's an interesting effort to map that to various applications around the world. Some teams are trying to map it to finance and that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
Wow, fascinating, amazing. I'll check the website out. And the other thing that's happening is where people are starting to build quantum internet. You're involved in that. It's particularly interesting to state actors for different reasons. What will a functioning quantum internet look like, and what will achieve that traditional internet networking can't or won't?
Yeah, it's an interesting word. We also use the word quantum teleportation because it's the closest thing that we know of in the English language to describe what's actually happening from a physics perspective. So the quantum internet, I think, is better characterized as what can you do with entanglement. So what is entanglement? Entanglement is one of the core things that you can get with quantum information that you can't get with classical information. It's basically, you can set up quantum systems to be defined as one object no matter how far apart they are, right? And that seems kind of crazy, but you can do that. And then you can actually use quantum entanglement for things like teleportation. So when you talk about communication, if you have an entanglement network, or the quantum internet, an entanglement network, you can use that to teleport information around where that information never travels through intervening space, which is amazing, because then you can play games where you don't have to worry about eavesdroppers, that kind of thing, right? So that's helpful. You can also do things called blind computing. You can you can teleport instructions to a computer and have that far away computer do things. And it doesn't have to be just quantum algorithms. It could run whatever algorithm, classical algorithm, and then teleport that information back to you. And you could do it in such a way where the computer that you've told what to do can't back infer what algorithm it has just employed. So there's all these like security and privacy kind of applications, similar to what you'd use in the homomorphic encryption kind of game. You can do those kinds of operations there too. But yeah, in terms of eavesdropper detection, there's also ways of making use of quantum systems in a network to provably detect if an eavesdropper is in the channel. So there's just different things that you could do once you use these different pieces of physics. But it does involve, and there's the other ones, you can get like better telescopes and position, navigation, and timing for defense applications, like all this stuff. But it really, the backbone of all of these things is getting entanglement to different spots. And so one of the interesting things that we've been motivated by is recognizing that the thing that's been holding back quantum networks is actually a same phase 1, 2, 3 kind of thing that we've been talking about for computing, which is to get unlimited distance and user count for quantum networks. You essentially actually need little networked quantum computers to act as repeaters and hubs for all of the users. So we're building that same functionality that unlocks both of those core technologies. So that's the quantum internet of the future, the entanglement network of the future. And people are working on it because, yeah, it has a physical security against the quantum code breaking capabilities, which are coming with quantum computers. So it's kind of it's beautiful that it comes as a pair.
Yeah, fascinating stuff. And we have Black Hat, which is the big industry security event happening this week as we speak in Las Vegas. And so, with quantum and quantum networking, is encryption dead, or is something else going to take its place? What's the impact on these networks in the future?
It's an open question, and it's changing all the time. So I've been in this space for 20 years, and there's been a number of algorithms that have been put forward as candidates that should be able to withstand quantum attack. And one by one, they've fallen. There's a few left though, and so there's a standardization process happening with NIST at the moment. They're about to release standards that are these new classical algorithms, which hopefully can replace RSA or Diffie-Hellman or any of these other asymmetric layers in the key exchange protocols that we use today. That would be the best, right? Of course, that would be the best, and we should be deploying those. But I expect drama. As you would expect, right? Any new cryptographic primitive that comes in, until it's battle tested for 40 years, there's going to be a bit of drama coming through. So I do know of some industries that are taking a multi-layer approach, that they're taking this so-called post-quantum or quantum secure cryptography. You can't prove that they're secure. You just have to build trust and hope. But there have been, efforts gone into building that trust. But layer that with, yes, a quantum layer, which has a physical eavesdropper detection, which is pretty good. So putting those two together means that you're in a really strong spot. But one's an infrastructure play. So it's going to be interesting to see which industries make the investment on an infrastructure play, especially because quantum computers are coming so quickly now.
Wow. Well, I'm sure there are lots of 3-letter agencies listening and participating in this very actively. Who knows? You can only guess. But the other hot buzzword that you talk a lot about is something called distributed entanglement, distributed quantum. What is that? Why is it so important? Obviously, from networking side of things.
Yeah, and thanks for asking. So if we have quantum systems, and you take one quantum computer here and another quantum computer here, you can't just attach a wire to them and have them work together. That is by far the most complicated thing. and getting quantum signals between the two, getting entanglement distributed between the two. That's a grand challenge, over and above just getting each of the individual computers to work well enough to rely upon them. And so when we talk about distributed quantum computing, it allows for that phase 3 horizontal scale. It means that you're no longer constrained to the size of any one box. And that means if you have the appetite for it, you can have limitless horizontal scale, which we've done with classical computers, right? There's ever bigger hyperscalers that have delivered more and more coordinated compute power. For quantum, because of the way the information combines, right? You get those nonlinear gains by putting them together, right? You can do algorithms that can't be done any other way. And moreover, you have space-time trade-offs, as you would expect, right? For classical computing, you get the same. So if you have even more quantum capabilities, you can run them generally faster. So there's a big push to have these distributed systems where then you could start competing on size, weight, power, and cost, right? Where you can start modularizing and putting them down and making them more commodity level, more accessible at scale. And that's the grand vision. So to make that all work, though, you have to be very, very careful about entanglement distribution, because honestly, a lot of the systems that aren't thinking about that are going to have to go back to the drawing board. Like it's not like classical systems where you just tack on a transceiver at the end and get a quantum signal at the other side. It's nothing like that. You're going to have to you got to engineer it right into the very basic building blocks of the system. So that's why it's really important to set it up first, because then you don't have to, hit a giant wall once you hit the size of your box.
Oh, fantastic. And tell us about Photonics Inc., your venture, your team's work to kind of scale quantum and commercialize it. Photonic.com, great domain, by the way. That's for us double E geeks. That's quite a win there. But what do you have to overcome in terms of scalability and commercialization to get to market?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we're very young in the space, but it's built on decades of work, taking a look at what quantum ingredients can both offer entanglement distribution and capabilities, core capabilities. So what we have is based in silicon, and so it has the manufacturing capability of silicon. And so we're the only commercial outfit that is working on color centers, or rather entanglement distributions, solutions in silicon, using spins as well. So we have the ability to manufacture, up to 1 million qubits on one chip, which is great. They're they're connected via photons, and that's why the name is what it is. Photons are the glue that make entanglement distribution possible. And that's going to be true for all systems once they get there, but we're fundamentally at telecom wavelengths to start with. And so we have that networking capability from ground zero, from day one. And so we've already, we were happy to share with the world, it's the first commercial offering of distributed quantum computing earlier this year. So again, from 3 years ago to today, it's moving really fast. And from there, yes, we need to increase rate, fidelity, performance of the individual blocks so that we can scale and offer these phase 3 quantum systems to the world commercially. The company itself is about 140 people. Because we're COVID born, we are able to really tap talent from around the whole world, but 2/3 to 3/4 of the talent are based here in Metro Vancouver, which is a beautiful quality of life. And so we're able to recruit a lot of people here. So it's good. Yeah, it's a lovely place to work. Everybody's really motivated.
Yeah, wonderful. If you need an intern during the summer, please, I'm open to, you need a 53-year-old intern, open to volunteering. But right across the border at Microsoft in Redmond, you have a strategic co-innovation collaboration. What is that exactly? How does it work? And what's the big idea there?
Yeah, that one was a really interesting conversation, and it's an excellent relationship. So the picture there is that there's been a few firms, a few outfits that have been dedicated to quantum and this kind of large scale quantum vision for many years. And Microsoft has been one of them. They got in very, very early, almost as early as me. And in doing so, they've had this enduring commitment to deliver essentially customer value, right? Like if you take a look at the number of qubits you need to deliver something useful, it's all phase 3, level 3. And so we were stealth for a long time, and we shared with them in a kind of a private preview what we're up to and what we're doing. And they were very taken by the idea of a distributed quantum computer because, of course, they recognize the benefits of what that's been for classical systems. And so when we shared that with them, they got quite excited and they just wanted to help. They just wanted to help make it go faster. And so we've been working with them. They have a lot of insights from their decades in this space up and down the stack, and we can kind of go together faster. But it is a collaboration. So there's still separate outfits with separate efforts. And it's just been kind of one of these 1 + 1 = 3 environments where we can just try and hopefully make this a reality for everyone as quickly as possible.
Well, fantastic work. Can't wait to watch all the progress onwards and upwards, and hope you get to enjoy some of that beautiful British Columbia summer
Yes.
The rest of August.
Yes. And again, thank you very much for your interest. It's a fast-moving space, and so watch closely. Watch closely.
I will be. Thanks so much for sharing a little preview into the work, and congratulations on all the success so far. Well, I think a lot of us are really excited about the possibilities. Thanks so much, Stephanie. Thanks, everyone, for watching and sharing. And go to photonics.com. Great website. You have a lot of really educational content there and info that's worth checking out. Okay, take care. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.